Welcome to the Grand Old Players. I'm Mark Manhart.
And I'm Bonnie Gill. And
And
today we're here to talk with you about
Lost in Yonkers by
Neil Simon, one of my favorite playwrights. Lost in Yonkers was actually a Pulitzer Prize winner for Neil Simon. And one thing I just love about his work is it makes you laugh and it makes you cry.
and it's a great place and play in which you can put older people, more mature people with kids and how
He
kids.
did do a lot of intergenerational shows, and we found that to be very effective with our theater because it was grand old players, therefore it was made for the older people. But to bring in the younger people brought in new life,
Oh yeah,
and they learned from each other. That was really
from
great.
each other. Right.
And again, with this show, we were able to work with pros and brand new people. And Lynn Rothman, we've mentioned before, this was actually the first show we used her in, and she played Bella, the hysterical kind of off person. It was her role of a lifetime, I have to tell you. The whole show, the boys were brand new to theater, high school boys, but the rest of the people in there had a lot of experience with us.
But one of the things that Bonnie had to do as a director was to get the young kids, boys, to get into the reality of 1942.
Right, because
And
this was the 1990s.
Yeah, you don't, weren't in the 1990s, you were not a kid and do things in the 1942s because I was there.
Something as simple as making the boys aware that you didn't stand too close to your elders and you didn't talk to them usually until they talked to you first.
You were brought into the conversation.
I was particularly taken by this show because this was my grandmother's house. We had all kinds of different people coming in and out, and her family was very close. Her children were in and out a lot. We lived with my grandmother for several months when we were looking for a house. So the whole idea of this intergenerational family and family days and that kind of thing was just real close to my
and
heart.
what was happening in those days. And a perfect example was one of the boys. What was it? The Bay kid,
Eddie Bay.
Eddie Bay. He had this line. He was told in the play that his father in 1942 was going to go to Guadalcanal. And he never said that right. My dad's going to Guadalcanal, and it just didn't click with my head. And I finally said, Eddie, you're not saying that. You're not saying that right. What? I said, you're not saying you're going to Guadalcanal. Dad's going to Guadalcanal, right? He says, I say it. Do you know what going to Guadalcanal meant? Well, yes. You went to a canal named Guada. What's the big deal? Well, the real voice is my dad's going to Guadalcanal. And I said, Eddie, you know what happened there? Hundreds and hundreds of American soldiers, Japanese soldiers died there. And it was part of the World War. And we all remember Guadalcanal was like. After I said that, Eddie hit that line perfect every time.
We had a real success with that show. In fact, that is the best review I ever got.
As a
As a director, the local critic, his in the first paragraph, we were doing the show in the fall, and later that spring, the big Omaha Community Playhouse had it on their calendar too. And I remember him saying, the Playhouse has a ways to go to match the quality of this particular production, and a couple of things, three things we had going for us. Neil Simon hardly could ever lose with a great script like that. Plus, I had a lot of experienced actors in this particular play, which was very nice. And then we had a very small, intimate theater. Our theater was only 100 seats, And so that particular show played really well with an intimate theater rather than a big 800 seat
Yeah.
venue. And one of the things that I remember doing with that show that was really a lot of fun, we were teaching some theater classes at that time, and we were heavy into Stanislavski. And because I had so many experienced actors in that particular show, we were able to do a lot of Stanislavski was a big person about improvising. So we were able to, in some of our rehearsals, come up and say, okay, you're the family and you're the same characters that you've always been. But let's say in this scene, the uncle, who was always a hoodlum, Louis, he's just robbed a bank and he's coming back and trying to hide the money before he takes off with his buddies. And it was really fun to watch these actors be in character, but take on dialogue and a whole new scenario. And I think it really made that particular cast gel.
You never told me that.
Yeah, well, you weren't at all the rehearsals.
Yeah.
It was really a fun experience.
One more thing that we haven't talked a whole lot about was the sets that were built by people. There's guys like Roland
Peters.
Peters.
Mm-hmm. He and Lou Ryan were
Keith Holman.
Key people on
They
building
would
sets.
build sets for us that would be terrific. They built a split set, and I wanted to play to have a whole lot of steps in it. They did that. How do you make a moon go away? And one play that I wrote was, how do you make the USS Missouri ship sink in the background?
That was real effective.
Mm-hmm. And they worked it out so that during that part of the play, the ship sunk. Wow, that was powerful.
And it was fun because these particular guys, they didn't actually have any theater experience,
yeah.
But they had a lot of construction experience, and they were very observant and watched a lot of theater and movies and things. So they had a real knack for how to get those things.
So there are a lot of ways to get involved with theater, and they're right there waiting for you. So
one thing I should say before you close is, we would do shows like this that were a real success a couple of times. And so you may see a picture of Lost in Yonkers that won't actually have the boys that we used. It'll be a different set of boys that were done later.
This was you.
So, yeah.
And so get lost in Grand Ole Players at your hometown.
Support live theater.
Yeah, Mark Manhart.
Bonnie Gill.